Good afternoon and welcome to the July meeting of the Seneca County Industrial Development Agency. We do have a quorum, so we'll get started. First item of business is approval of the IDA meeting minutes from our last meeting on June 1st. Everyone received a copy in their packet. Any corrections or changes or additions?
No.
Hearing none. Can I have a motion to approve?
So made.
A second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carried. Next item is the financials. Bob, would you like to review those?
Yes. I'll refer to the notes that I prepared for the meeting packet, starting with the balance sheet. Our total assets measured $4,448,000 at the end of May. That's an increase of $20,000 from April 30th. And the increase is due to the following account changes. Our cash pass-through account increased by $39,678. And this is basically due to timing of pilot payments. Cash revolving loan fund increased by $3,158. Again, this is due to loan payments by Best Made and Schrader. Our notes receivable long-term decreased $4,218 due to loan payments by Best Made and Schrader. Our net fixed assets decreased $336, and that is due to depreciation expense for the month of May. We also had a decrease in our operating fund cash, a decrease of $18,082, and the decrease is due to the net loss for the month of May. On the liability and equity side, total liability and equities measured $4,448,000 on May 31st. Again, an increase of $20,200 from our April position. Changes to our liabilities and equity for the period. Our credit card payable decreased by $30 due to payments made in May. At least in the compliance pass-through, which is a new account, increased by $4,600 again for the month of May. Pilot programs increased $31,078, again due to timing of the pilot payments. And in the equity section, our net income, in this case loss, was also affected by an additional loss of $46.98 for the month of May. On the profit and loss statement, ordinary income measured $180,780 as of May 31st, and that's an increase of $45,000 from April 30th. This increase is due to the following account changes. Agency fees, $44,500 received from 5S Development. Revolving loan fund income of $915, again due to loan payments. And interest income of $59, which is included in the RFL loan payments. Ordinary operating expenses, the total ordinary operating expenses measured $196,000 for the month of May, and that's an increase of $50,172 from our April position. And the increase is due to the following account changes. Payroll $15,991, benefits $8,842, professional services $19,252, general office expense of $779, administrative and technical expenses of $52.52, repairs and maintenance $320, and again depreciation expense of $336. Net ordinary income measured minus $15,226 for May 31st. That's net change of $46.98 from our April position. This decrease is due to the following noted items. Other income and expenses reflected zero balances as of May 31st. Net income measured a minus $15,226 on May 31st. Again, a decrease of $46.98 from its April position. The decrease is due to ordinary operating income measuring a total of $180,780, and ordinary operating expenses measuring a total of $196,006 on May 31st. That equates to a net difference of $15,226, which was our loss position through May 31st. That concludes my quick review of the financial balance sheet and P&L statement. Any questions? I will note in our August meeting, I'll be providing the board again with what I referred to as the 12-quarter summary of asset changes and P&L changes for those periods.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Hearing no.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
You have been doing these new graphs, and just in the profit and loss comparisons, am I correct that the budget for 2023, that's for the annual?
That's the annual budget,
That's
right?
okay.
Yes.
Good.
It's not based on the May position.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
There'll be more detail on that particular situation when we do our August report
Good.
for the month of June.
And I'll work with you on that.
Okay.
I'll show up for that meeting.
That's fine.
Any other comments or questions on the financials? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Motion carried. Next item is the seeker review of the Lodi solar project, Solar One solar project. So David, I think you're kicking this off for us?
Yes, sir. Let's see. Yeah, so I guess I just read from question 1 on. Do you want me to read the instructions as well? And that's just tips. So I think we'll start with question 1. Is that okay?
Start with question 1 on part 2.
Okay, so Lodi Solar Full Environmental Assessment Form, part 2. Question 1, impact on land. Proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site.
Oh, David, just 1 second, yeah, just to make sure everyone has it, it's on, yeah, the part of the packet, it's section 2, part 2, page 1 of 10.
The pink packet with, and you have to go through part 1 first to get to part
So
2.
it's probably a dozen pages in.
Yeah.
Yeah, 13 or so in the first part.
And just to clarify, a lot of you have been through the IDA being lead agency before on seeker, but for those that haven't, the part 2 responses that Dave is reading through are staff's recommendations of how the board should respond to this based on the company's part 1 seeker that was submitted. So everything here has references to part 1 questions that have been reviewed, and certainly if people have questions today and you want further detail, we can talk through that.
And this is because we are being the lead agency in dealing with the environmental quality review.
Yes.
Okay.
Take it away.
110%. Okay, so impact on land, question 1. Proposed action may involve construction on physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site. We did check yes, because in part 1, section delta 1, you will find that they had checked yes at least at some point. However, we have checked no or small impact may occur. Do I read each of those letters as well?
Yes.
Okay. A, the proposed action may involve construction on land where the depth of the water table is less than 3 feet. No or small impact may occur. B, the proposed action may involve construction on slopes of 15% or greater. No or small impact may occur. The proposed action may involve construction on land where bedrock is exposed, generally within 5 feet of existing ground surface. No or small impact may occur. The proposed action may involve the excavation and removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material. Also, no or small impact may occur. The proposed action may involve construction that continues for more than 1 year or in multiple phases. No or small impact may occur. The proposed action may result in increased erosion, whether from physical disturbance or vegetation removal, including from treatment by herbicides. No or small impact may occur. The proposed action is or may be located within the coastal erosion hazard area. No or small impact may occur. And that does it, I believe, for question 1.
Does anybody disagree with any of the question 1 assessment? Okay.
I do have also, I don't know if they want to look at the notes.
Let's review those once we go through.
We'll get through those, okay, so there's some more detail on that.
Can we respond to that now, or will we have a chance later?
I guess, well, let's go through each item, and if there's items that, there's probably 95% of this will probably be non-controversial or no major comment. So we can go through this part 2, and then go back, and if there's any areas that need further discussion, make sure we have that.
I disagree with a lot of what's been said, so will I have a chance to voice that opinion?
Page 2 of 10.
We can have a, small
so this is
comment.
part 1.
We did go through and have the public comment
This is
period
what he just read
earlier,
through.
which the results are here for us. But yeah, when we get through part 2, then we can accept some additional comments.
Thank you.
Okay, question 2, impact on geological features. That did not meet criteria, so I checked no. Therefore, we don't have to read the rest of those.
Can
Impacts.
you read what is under part 2?
Oh, sure, the proposed action, yes. The proposed action may result in the modification or destruction of, or inhibit the access to, any unique or unusual landforms on the site. For example, cliffs, dunes, minerals, fossils, or caves. The answer to that question was no. Impacts on surface water, question 3. The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water. The yes box was checked. I'll go into detail later on that. Alpha, the proposed action may create a new body of water. No, or small impact may occur. The proposed action may result in an increase or decrease of over 10% or more than a 10-acre increase or decrease in the surface area of any body of water. I checked no. The proposed action may involve dredging more than 100 cubic yards of material from wetland or water body. The answer is no, or small impact may occur. The proposed action may involve construction within or adjoining a freshwater or tidal wetland or in the bed or banks of any other water body. No. The proposed action may create turbidity in a water body, either from upland erosion runoff or by disturbing bottom sediments. The answer is no, or small impact may occur. The proposed action may include construction of one or more intake for withdrawal of water from surface water. The answer was no. The proposed action may include construction of one or more outfalls or discharge of wastewater to surface water. The answer is no. The proposed action may cause soil erosion or otherwise create a source of stormwater discharge that may lead to, siltation or other, did I say that properly? Siltation or other degradation of receiving water bodies. The answer was no. The proposed action may affect the water quality of any water bodies within or downstream of the site of the proposed action. The answer was no. The proposed action may involve the application of pesticides or herbicides in or around any water body. The answer was no, or small impact may occur. Proposed action may require the construction of new or expansion of existing wastewater treatment facilities. The answer was no. And other impacts is no. Number 4, impact on groundwater. The proposed action may result in new or additional use of groundwater, or may have the potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or an aquifer, according to parts 1, Delta 2A, Delta 2C, Delta 2 Delta, Delta 2 Papa, Delta 2 Quebec, and Delta 2 Tango. The answer was no. Impact on flooding, question 5. The proposed action may result in the development on lands subject to flooding. The answer was no. We can move on. Number 6, impact on air. The proposed action may include a state-regulated air emission source. The answer was yes, due to part 1. Every other box is no or small impact may occur. If the proposed action requires federal, state air emissions permits, the action may also emit one or more greenhouse gases at or above the following levels. I, more than 1,000 tons per year of carbon dioxide. The answer was no or small impact. More than 3.5 tons per year of nitrous oxide. The answer was no. Part 3, more than 1,000 tons per year of carbon equivalent or perfluorocarbons, or PFCs. The answer was no. Number 4, more than 0.045 tons per year of sulfur hexafluoride. The answer was no. More than 1,000 tons per year of carbon dioxide equivalent of hydrochlorofluorocarbons, or HFCs emissions. The answer was no. And 6, 43 tons a year or more of methane. The answer was no, or small impact may occur. B, the proposed action may generate 10 tons a year or more of any one designated hazardous air pollutant, or 25 tons a year or more of any combination of such hazardous air pollutants. The answer was no, or small impact. The proposed action may require a state registration or may produce an emissions rate of total contaminants that may exceed 5 pounds per hour, or may include a heat source capable of producing more than 10 million BTUs per hour. The answer was no, or small impact. The proposed action may reach 50% of any of the thresholds in alpha through Charlie above. The answer was no, or small impact may occur. The proposed action may result in the combustion or thermal treatment of 1 ton of refuse per hour. Sorry, more than 1 ton of refuse per hour. The answer was no, or small impact. Moving on to question 7, impact on plants and animals. The proposed action may result in a loss of flora or fauna. The answer is yes, because of part 1, as you see indicated there in part 1, echo to Mike and Quebec. Alpha, the proposed action may cause reduction in pollution or loss of individuals of any threatened or endangered species as listed by New York State or the federal government that use the site or that are found on, over, or near the site. The answer was no, or small impact may occur. The proposed action may result in the reduction or degradation of any habitat used by any rare, threatened, or endangered species as listed by New York State or the federal government. The answer was no. The proposed action may cause reduction in population or loss of individuals of any species of special concern or conservation need as listed by New York State or the federal government that use the site or are found on, over, or near the site. The answer was no, or small impact may occur. Delta, the proposed action may result in reduction or degradation of any habitat used by any species of special concern and conservation need as listed by New York State or the federal government. The answer was no, or small impact may occur. Moving on to Echo, the proposed action may diminish the capacity of the registered natural landmark to support the biological community it was established to protect. The answer was no, or small impact. The proposed action may result in the removal of or ground disturbance in any portion of a designated significant natural community. The answer was no or small impact. Proposed action may substantially interfere with nesting, breeding, foraging, overwintering habitat for the predominant species that occupy the project site. The answer was no or small impact may occur. The proposed action requires the conversion of more than 10 acres of forest, grasslands, or any other regionally or locally imported habitat type. Oh, sorry, and the answer was no. Proposed action, commercial, industrial, or recreational projects only involves use of herbicides or pesticides. The answer was no, or small impact may occur. On to question 8, impact on agricultural resources. The proposed action may impact agricultural resources. See part 1, Echo 3, Alpha and Bravo. The answer was yes. The proposed action may impact soil classified within soil group 1 through 4 of the New York State Land Classification System. The answer was no, or small impact may occur. Proposed action may sever, cross, or otherwise limit access to agricultural land, includes cropland, hayfields, pasture, vineyard, orchard, etc. The answer is no or small impact. Proposed action may result in the excavation or compaction of the soil profile of active agricultural land. The answer was no or small impact. The proposed action may irreversibly convert agricultural land to non-agricultural uses, either more than 2.5 acres if located in an agricultural district, or more than 10 acres if not within an agricultural district. The answer was no or small impact. The proposed action may disrupt or prevent installation of an agricultural land management system. The answer was no or small impact. The proposed action may result directly or indirectly in increased development potential or pressure on farmland. The answer was no or small impact. The proposed project is not consistent with the adopted municipal farmland protection plan. The answer was no or small impact. Moving on to question 9, impact on aesthetic resources. The answer was checked yes. The land use of the proposed action are obviously different from or are in sharp contrast to current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource. Proposed action may be visible from any officially designated federal, state, or local scenic or aesthetic resource. Answer was no or small impact. The proposed action may result in the obstruction, elimination of significant screening of one or more of the officially designated scenic views. The answer was no or small impact. The proposed action may be visible from publicly accessible vantage points. I, seasonally, e.g. screened by summer foliage, but visible during other season, or II, year-round. The answers were both no or small impact may occur. The situation or activity in which viewers are engaged while viewing the proposed action is 1, routine travel by residents, including travel to and from work, recreational or tourism-based activities. The answer was no or small impact may occur. The proposed action may cause a diminishment of the public enjoyment and appreciation of the designated aesthetic resource. The answer was no or small impact. There are similar projects visible within the following distance from the proposed project. You can see that this 0 to 1/2 mile, 1/2 to 3 miles, 3 to 5 miles, or 5+ miles. The answer was no or small impact may occur. Moving on to question 10, impact on historic and archaeological resources. The proposed action may occur in or adjacent to a historic or archaeological resource. According to parts 1, Echo, 3, Echo, Foxtrot, and Golf. The answer was checked no. We can move on. Number 11, impact on open space recreation. The proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or a reduction of an open space resource as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan. The answer, according to part 1, Charlie 2, Charlie, Echo 1, Charlie, Echo 2, Quebec, was no. Number 12, impact on critical environment areas. The proposed action may be located within or adjacent to a critical environmental area, CEA. According to part 1, Echo 3, Delta, it is no. Number 13, Impact on transportation. The proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation systems. See Part 1 Delta, 2 Juliet. The answer is no. Number 14, impact on energy. The proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy. See Parts 1 Delta, 2 Kilo. The answer was no. Moving on. Question 15, impact on noise, odor, and light. The proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting. The answer is checked yes, according to Part 1 Delta 2 Mike, November, and Oscar. The proposed action may produce sound above noise level established by local regulation. The answer was no or small impact. The proposed action may result in blasting within 1,500 feet of any residence, hospital, school, licensed daycare center, or nursing home. The answer was no or small impact. The proposed action may result in routine odors for more than 1 hour per day. The answer was no or small impact. The proposed action may result in light shining onto adjoining properties. The answer was no or small impact. The proposed action may result in lighting creating sky glow brighter than existing area conditions. And the answer was no or small impact. Moving on to question 16, impact on human health. The proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants. According to Parts 1 Delta 2 Quebec, Echo 1 Delta Fox Golf and Hotel, the answer was no. Moving on. Number 17, consistency with community plans. The proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans. According to Parts 1, Charlie 2, and Charlie 3. The answer was yes. The proposed action's land use components may be different from or in sharp contrast to current surrounding land use patterns. No or small impact may occur. Proposed action will cause a permanent population of the city, town, or village in which the project is located to grow by more than 5%. The answer was no or small impact. The proposed action is inconsistent with local land use plans or zoning regulations. The answer was no or small impact. The proposed action is inconsistent with any county plans or other regional land use plans. The answer is no or small impact. The proposed action may cause a change in the density of development that is not supported by existing infrastructure or is distant from existing infrastructure. The answer was no or small impact. The proposed action is located in an area characterized by low density development that will require new or expanded public infrastructure. The answer was no or small impact. The proposed action may induce secondary development impacts, e.g. residential or commercial development not included in the proposed action. The answer was no or small impact. Number 18, consistency with community character. The proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character. As per Part 1, Charlie 2, Charlie 3, Delta 2, Echo 3, the answer was yes. The proposed action may replace, eliminate existing facilities, structures, or areas of historic importance to the community. The answer was no or small impact. The proposed action may create demand for additional community services, schools, police, and fire. The answer was no or small impact. The proposed action may displace affordable or low-income housing in an area where there is a shortage of such housing. The answer was no or small impact. The proposed action may interfere with the use or enjoyment of officially recognized or designated public resources. The answer was no or small impact. The proposed action is inconsistent with the predominant architectural scale and character. The answer was no or small impact. Proposed action is inconsistent with the character of the existing natural landscape. The answer was no or small impact. And I believe that concludes Part 2.
Yeah, why don't you take a drink and.
Yeah, I had a few in between there. Yeah.
I think probably everyone has come to the conclusion that David served in the military at some point in his career.
Right, it's not a promotion warrant, yeah.
That's typically not how we have letters said when I was in school, but
Sorry.
that's fine. So anyways, just as, especially for people who have not gone through this before, because this is a detailed state form and process that we need to go through. Again, the applicant does part one, the lead agency does part two, and then part three, you can see here, there's part three notes. During the part two that we just were through, there were a number of where there was some impact, or just not a no impact, but there was some impact that staff has put down as minor, not major impact. And so in part three, the notes are there to explain the reasoning why it was chosen, the category was chosen the way it was. So I guess we can go through those as a set, or did you want to go through one?
Yeah,
One.
are you good to read through the
Sure,
part three
why
notes?
not?
Is your
You want
voice
me to be a little
okay?
nicer about it, or? Just kidding.
So, Dave, if you could read through what the notes are, these would be attached to part three, like Steve mentioned, to address the part one questions that were checked yes, but then everything subsequently was no or small impact. So if you can read through those, then maybe we can open it up for further question or discussion from the board.
Okay, I do want to point out, I did make a typo. Number 17 should be consistency with community plans, not character. It's a duplicate heading, that's my fault, but the rest of it is proper. All right, so the part three notes that I have here, I also referenced kind of the question, so that's one Fox, impact on land, and I tried to indicate where that thought process is. I was told by planning department, because I did a little research with them as well, that this is a historical documentation of a thought process. So I try to be as thorough as possible on these notes to make sure that everybody understands the point of view. So I have one Foxtrot, impacts on land. The proposed project indicates a minor increase in impervious surface area, adding only 0.01 acres out of a total. I guess I should have put the question on there. So if you gotta have to go back to 1F if you really want to see the actual question. I should have done that. I apologize. This is a nominal change unlikely to have a significant impact on surface water runoff. It's essentially the service road that they have. Yeah, anyway, I won't get into elaborating details. The project proposal does not incorporate the establishment of any new point sources of stormwater runoff. Temporary stormwater runoff during construction phase is to be managed on-site utilizing best management practices for stormwater, sediment, and erosion control. Following project completion, the sheet flow from the solar panels is expected to either infiltrate the ground surface or be controlled through existing drainage channels, wetland areas, and/or swales according to the project proposal. This plan is intended to prevent any increase in runoff or flow onto adjacent properties and to minimize any increase in impervious surfaces. These proposed designs and controls should serve to mitigate potential impacts on local water resources and the surrounding environment according to the information provided. These are in response to 3 Delta and 3 India. Impacts on surface water. In reference to the Seeker Part 1 section Echo 2 Hotel, it was confirmed that the very small portion of federally regulated wetlands, specifically 0.01 acre, adjoins the project site. This constitutes a minimal fraction of the overall project area. Given this minor interaction with these water resources, it is anticipated that there will be minimal, if any, impact on these wetlands. 6 Foxtrot, impacts on air quality. Only minimal air emissions are expected from the proposed solar project, as detailed in Part 1, Section Delta 2 Foxtrot, India. The main source of these emissions would be from vehicles used for occasional maintenance and equipment for periodic mowing at the site. Given the frequency of these activities, their overall contribution to air emissions would be relatively insignificant. 7 Alpha, 7 Bravo, impact on animals. In addressing concerns related to impacts on animal populations, specifically we're referencing the findings of the Grassland Winter Raptor Survey conducted on the project sites for Lodi Solar and Lodi 2 Solar, situated along State Route 414, town of Lodi, Seneca County. The study's findings have indicated that these sightings of short-eared owls and northern harriers within the project vicinity are infrequent. Consequently, it is pertinent to highlight that per New York State's Environmental Conservation Law, 6 New York CRR Part 182, this project site does not meet the criteria for designation as a critical habitat. This label typically applies to habitats that are characterized by a high density of a specific endangered or threatened species, a condition not applicable to our project site. The attached study documents the observed species and relative frequency of their occurrences within the project area. That attached study is not actually in your packets because it's far too large, but it was emailed to each and every board member.
And it will be on our website afterwards as well,
Right.
as part of the public documents.
8 Alpha, 8 Charlie, 8 Delta, impact on agricultural resources. The proposed project site, as indicated in Part 1, reference 3, Echo 3 Alpha, is located within a recognized agricultural district, SENE 012, certified in accordance with Agriculture and Markets Law, Article 25 Alpha Alpha, Section 303 and 304 of Seneca County. This site encompasses 40.2 acres designated as highly productive soils as per the USDA NRCS Soil Survey Farmland Classification. While acknowledging that the installation of the solar farm involves a temporary adaptation of agricultural land for solar energy production, it is crucial to note that this alteration is not expected to cause an irreversible impact on the agricultural resources present. In line with the established industry practices, the project developer will assume responsibility of decommissioning and removing the solar panels at the end of the operational lifespan, restoring the site to its original agricultural state. It is anticipated that a financial surety such as a bond, letter of credit, or cash deposit will be put in place in the project's inception. This financial assurance, a standard provision in solar development projects, aims to secure the developer's obligation and cover the projected costs associated with decommissioning and site restoration. 9 Alpha, impacts on aesthetic resources. With respect to aesthetic resources as outlined in Seeker Part 2, Question 9 Alpha, and in reference with Part 1, Echo 3 Hotel, the project site location along the designated scenic byway of State Route 414 and within 5 miles of the Finger Lakes National Forest is duly acknowledged. Given these factors, we recognize the potential visual impact of the proposed solar farm on the local landscape. In response to these conditions, the project developer has crafted a comprehensive landscaping plan aimed at mitigating the majority of the potential adverse visual impacts. This plan includes the planting of 117 trees and 143 shrubs, forming a natural buffer that aims in harmonizing the solar farm's visual presence with the surrounding environment. All plant species selected for this buffer are indigenous to the Finger Lakes region. This choice aligns with our commitment to maintain visual integrity and natural beauty of the local ecosystem, thus respecting and preserving the scenic quality of both State Route 414 byway and the broader Finger Lakes area. 15 Alpha, impacts on noise, odor, and light. It is anticipated that there will be a temporary increase in noise levels due to the operation of construction equipment. This is common and an unavoidable aspect of the construction process. However, to minimize impact on the local community, all construction activities will be carefully scheduled to occur between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Monday through, that should say Friday or Saturday. My apologies on that. That's going to be changed. Monday through Saturday. Impacts on noise, odor, and light. 15 Delta. Concerning potential glare, the design of this project inherently minimizes this risk due to several important factors. Firstly, the project will employ monocrystalline photovoltaic cells housed in bifacial panels. By design, these panels aim to absorb and convert sunlight into energy, not reflected. Hence, any reflected light signifies a loss in efficiency, which the design seeks to minimize. Secondly, these photovoltaic cells are treated with an anti-reflective coating. This treatment further reduces the intensity of any light that might be reflected from the surface of the panels, further decreasing the potential for glare. Lastly, the use of single-axis trackers ensures that the panels continually face the sun during daylight hours. This orientation results in minimal reflected light being directed back towards the sun rather than outwards. This positioning effectively means that the ground level visibility of any reflected light is extremely unlikely. To further support this, I've attached a determination of no hazard to air navigation issued by the FAA for this project, attesting to the minimal risk of glare associated with the design. Number 17, consistency with community plans, not character. So please note that, it was a typo. Item 17 of the seeker part 2 addresses the consistency with community plans. While it is noted that the comprehensive community plan exists, as indicated in part 1, section Charlie 2 Alpha, this plan does not provide specific recommendations for the proposed project site. Furthermore, it is important to highlight that the town of Lodi does not have a zoning ordinance. Hence, despite marking yes for item 17, the absence of site-specific guidance and zoning regulations implies that the proposed project is unlikely to significantly contradict or disrupt existing community planning efforts. Number 18, consistency with community character. The proposed project could initially seem inconsistent with the existing natural landscape's character. The town master plan emphasizes quality of life characteristics such as lakefront, open spaces, expansive vistas, and the rural and agricultural feel of the town of Lodi. Notwithstanding, it's important to note that the proposed project includes measures to minimize potential visual impact. The addition of 117 trees and 143 shrubs as part of the comprehensive landscaping plan serves as a natural buffer. This approach aids in aligning the solar farm with the surrounding landscape, thus addressing potential inconsistencies with the area's rural character as detailed in the town master plan. The aim is to ensure that the project respects and aligns with the characteristic quality of life factors outlined in the town master plan while contributing to the renewable energy production. That's it for the minutes. Everything we said, yes.
Thank you, Dave. So those are the explanations, based on the responses to part 2. Staff's recommendation to the board would be for part 3, to have the following response. This project will result in no significant adverse impacts on the environment, and therefore an environmental impact statement need not be prepared. Accordingly, this negative declaration is issued. So that would be the formal recommendation. Obviously, it's up to the board to agree or disagree with that and to make any modifications to the responses on part 2 as they see fit.
So, everybody all set for this? So I think what I'd like to do is to keep this somewhat organized. There were, I think, 18 different sections in the seeker. Some were, had impact, some had no impact. But just to go, let's go through these one by one. Say, are we satisfied with the determination of no or small impact for that particular section? So the first item, the first section is impact on land. Can have the responses in part 2 and additional response on part 3. Is there any question, discussion on part 1? Hearing none. Move on to section 2, impact on geological features. This was marked no impact. Any discussion on that part? Third section, impacts on surface water. That was marked as yes or no or small impact may occur. Any questions or discussion of the board on that? Hearing none, move on to impact on groundwater, number 4, which was no impact. Next item, impact on flooding, number 5, was also marked as no impact. Number 6, impact on air, it was marked as no or small impact.
That was marked as yes.
Yes, excuse me, yes, is no or small impact.
So I've got a question about that one.
Okay?
I read David's explanation, I understand it, it's basically for the things gonna run out there after it's done. But remember, this is farm ground. There were tractors out there that were preparing the soil, planting the crop, spraying the crop and harvesting the crop. What the company's gonna do for maintenance afterwards is not gonna be anywhere close to what the farmer did there for every year during cultivation. So I think this one should be marked a no, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know if it's a big deal or not, but to me, what the solar company's gonna do there is nothing compared to what the farmer did.
Which is why all of the individual boxes are no or small impact. The reason that number 6 is a yes, like some of these others, is because each part 2 question references specific sections on part 1.
Mhm.
And because of the answers that are provided, even if it's minimal, you know, their acknowledgement of ongoing maintenance or construction traffic requires us to
Okay.
mark it. But it's for those types of reasons that ultimately the recommendation is that there's no significant impact.
I understand.
True, it is one of those ones that, is there going to be a minor impact on air with the project construction and afterwards?
Mhm.
Yes. Will it actually be less than what it was originally? Yes, but, yeah,
Still have to account.
it's still for account for it. Even though
Fine, I
it'd
just
even
saw
though
that
there'd be a
one
net-
and flagged it and.
A net decrease, it's still.
Okay.
In my view, it's better for us to be thorough on this and to document the reasoning behind why something, you know, acknowledge it and then document the reasons behind why it's not a significant impact. So that's why the notes and everything are a little bit maybe overboard compared to what some, you know, planning boards and things do, but it's better to cover our bases since this is not, you know, a role that we take on that often.
Any other comments on number 6? Hearing none. Number 7, impact on plants and animals, was marked yes, as no or small impact may occur. Next item, impact on agricultural resources. That was also marked yes, but everything is no or small impact may occur. So then, on to section 9, impact on aesthetic resources, which it was also marked yes, as no or small impacts may occur. Any comments or discussion on that? I think, I just wanna, again, note that when we first received the project a few months ago, we had rather lengthy discussions and conversations about the original site plan and proactively went back to the developer requesting additional buffering, a landscaping plan, and all that. If it was not for that change, I don't know if we could mark this as a no or small impact, but because of that change, I think this is appropriate in my opinion. Number 10, impact on historic and archaeological resources, was marked no. Number 11, impact on open space and recreation, that was also marked no. 12, impact on critical areas, also suggested marked no. Number 13, impact on transportation, another no. Next one, 14, impact on energy, that was also marked no impact. Next item, impact on noise, odor, and light. This was marked yes, for no or small impact may occur. Any questions or comments on that?
Again, I think we were just talking about how it's just during construction, there's gonna be a little bit of noise, but after that, except for maybe driving in a pickup truck, there just is nothing there.
Number 16, impact on human health. It was marked no. 17, consistency with community plans. It was marked yes with no or small impact may occur. Any additional questions or comments on that from the board? None. Last one, 18, consistency with community character. That was also marked yes, with no or small impact may occur. Any comment or question with that? Does anyone from the board have any additional comments before I open it up to if there's comments from the public? Okay. So I guess we can entertain some questions or comments. Yeah, if you just, identify yourself, so.
My name is James Morby, and I'm a resident of Lodi Point. And all I'm looking for is a fair shake. That's all I want, is a fair shake. New York State agricultural preservation law describes agricultural land as an irreplaceable state asset. New York's right to farm law promises to support strong agricultural economy. In addition, New York State Constitution vows to protect its scenic beauty with developing agricultural land. New York State Senate approved legislation to make the 18-mile stretch of Route 414 between Watkins Glen and Lodi an official scenic byway, thus protecting the scenic beauty that attracts tourism and farming. The legislature also signed into law and was made official, this was made official August 2nd, 2012. An 18-mile stretch includes all the land on Route 414 corridor, including the town and village of Lodi. The proposed 75-acre solar farm lies within that corridor. And I strongly, all I need is a fair shake, gentlemen, that's all. Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Anyone?
Do you have any questions for me? Yes, sir.
So your objections are to the view shed, that you're gonna have to, you think you're gonna look at solar panels?
No,
So I understand you're citing the legal, what's your personal objection? What are you upset about?
that you're not following the law, that's all. I don't think you're following the law. It's a state law.
Well, do you think the state law prohibits this kind of development?
Yes,
Okay.
You gotta remember that Lodi does not have any zoning.
Correct.
So anything, I mean anything, can happen in the town of Lodi.
correct.
Farming, landfills, solar panels. And we're not an enforcement agency.
No, I understand that, sir.
Okay.
You had a great question before, I liked the question about,
I farm.
I know you do.
So, I said, and I went to the public hearing.
Yeah.
I sat next to the farmers that farm the ground, and I understand they're not for losing it.
Yeah.
But we all use electricity, and that electricity has to come from somewhere. We have solar panels on my farm that generate all the electricity we need for our farm. And the deer lay under them, the rabbits lay under them, they don't restrict anything, there's no runoff from them, the grass grows more under the solar panels than it does in the surrounding 50 acres. So, you know, I've seen all these questions, I feel for people. It's not, if you drive up 414, you're not looking toward these solar panels, you're gonna be looking toward the lake. So I have a hard time, I do not like people that come and say, not in my backyard. We all need to take the responsibility that we create trash, we use electricity, we use water, and we need to all take our responsibility for generating some of that. And Lodi needs electricity.
You know-
Believe me, the south end needs electricity.
Excuse me. You know, a good place for that solar farm would be the Army Depot.
And it's been tried to be done. I know Earl real well, he's tried to do it. There's too many wetlands on it. He can't put 100 acres together to do anything on that place. It was gonna originally be farms. He can't do that. It's too many wetlands.
And how about the airfield, the airstrip?
They farm all the ground around it other than the blacktop. And you know, and somebody else's argument at the hearing was that, why don't they put solar panels on the Hector grazing ground? Because farmers use that. I mean, there's some of it that's not fenced, that hopefully will get fenced in time. But most of that is rented by farmers within a 50, 60-mile radius of here that put cattle on that every summer. You can't put the solar panels out there. You can put solar panels out and put sheep under them, but at this point, the fences aren't good enough on the Hector grazing land to do that. So, you know, it just needs to be somewhere. And solar goes where there are landlines that can collect electricity and move it to society. So, I mean, I feel for it. Nobody wants it in their backyard, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah. And I
shouldn't
think,
say
yeah,
all this.
unfortunately, you know, the difficult part with solar is, and we've looked at, over the years, a lot with the depot, and just the interconnection to the NICEAC network, that people have tried, you know, the depot for many years, but there's just no connection. And unfortunately, that's, you know, solar panels have to be located really on the main lines.
Thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Before you go, I do actually, and I agree with you, and relative to the Secor process that's here, I don't disagree with how he answered any of them. But I do question how you can have the state and everybody pass the laws that you just read, and the developers and people don't have a concern with that, what that says from a legal perspective. It's not addressed in our Secor, and while this was answered correctly, but I would think somebody could actually challenge this based upon the laws that you've got there. That's not necessarily up to us to resolve, but I'm amazed that we have that passed with the wording that it is, and nobody challenges it based on that.
I agree.
Well, and that's what I was gonna bring up too. And I appreciate you being here
Yeah.
and saying this. And I think what we're talking about right now is giving the fair shake to what you just said in this process. Whether or not solar is a worthwhile endeavor, a worthwhile industry or not, I think there's a lot of questions around that, but that's not really the task of what we're doing. After hearing the questions as David put through, and David, thank you for putting, noting about the scenic byway, because I was gonna mention that, the developer did not list that. Listed the national forest, but did not list the fact that it was a designated scenic byway, but that was in our response. We did consider that, David put that in there. And so I guess just before you leave, hearing the responses as we are tasked to do from the seeker perspective, was there anything that you heard that was not correct or not factual in terms of the response that David had mentioned? I mean, I understand your position, believe me, I know the position, but in terms of this seeker response, is there anything that you heard that we're about to vote on that would be untrue or not right?
Just not following the law, I guess. That's what concerns me more than anything.
Okay. But I do appreciate you being here and saying that.
Thank you for your time, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you.
Do either of you have comments related to the seeker part of the project?
No, because the way it was written, it does agree with whatever, but, What about the Indian artifacts and stuff that have been found on that property? There's so many things that I think were just overlooked.
Well, as plowed land, whatever archaeological, like if you find a arrowhead or something there, that's plowed land. There's no context for it anymore. I mean, you might still find stuff, but it's been gone over by the agricultural process, which kind of wipes out that use.
And I think the one part with, no one wants to see farmland disappear. I think the good part with this is where essentially the only impact is putting in the posts for the panels. And then when this is done, everything is removed and it's returned back to the state. So it's not where, say, a big box store is gonna come in and rip off the top so many feet of topsoil, take it away, put in a building, parking lot and all that, and which you're never really gonna return to productive farmland. This could easily go back in another 25, 30 years. So it's not a permanent change. I guess for me, I'll probably never see it not be a solar panel, but it's, it's not a permanent construction that can't be or won't be reversed at the end.
And I'll see it every day the rest of my life. Because I have to go by it every day.
Well, it'll look like a hedgerow.
Oh, no, not from where I'm looking, I'm gonna see nothing but panels.
What, you mean Matthews Road?
Pardon?
Matthews Road?
No, you're.
If it's on 414, you
You're
won't
down
see
in
it.
Hector. I'm on Chrisfield Road, which is
Oh, right, Chrisfield.
the two roads.
Okay.
And the view from Chrisfield Road is going to be gone. And at one point, that was suggested to be part of the scenic byway because of the view from that mile up. And it was not included in the final draft for the scenic byway, but I look at the people that just put a new house in it and they have an opening to the lake. And as I'm driving by it, I'm thinking, enjoy it, because in a few more months, you're not gonna see the lake again.
Well, if the owner had decided to just let it go back to a forest, it would grow up and the same thing would happen.
Oh, I have complaints about the forest too, but I know
understand,
what the
yeah.
forest has done
Things change.
and how things have changed with the forest, yes, but, when you've got it, I know where you're at, you like where you're at. How would you feel if it came and blocked your view? I mean, you put in a new place. You put in a new place, didn't you?
No, I live over in Covert.
Okay. But you wouldn't want your new home to be blocked view if,
It's true, but, so you've got competing issues. You have a homeowner here, and then you've got a landowner here.
oh, I understand.
It's what happens in the Finger Lakes.
I understand it. I just am saying that I will have to look at it every day for the rest of my life. Unless I wanna go 3 miles around to go by the other side of it where the trees and everything are. So, that's just my point of view.
Okay? Thank you.
So,
I want to thank you for being really thorough with this evening and trying to touch all the bases and being sensitive to the residents in the town. What we, as residents in the town, need to realize is that this is our responsibility. The fact that we don't have a really good comprehensive plan, it hasn't been updated since 2012. The fact that we have no zoning and it has been resistant to zoning because they hate the word. That what has occurred is the result of a laissez-faire attitude within the town, and the town needs to take responsibility for that. I think you guys have been sensitive to the town as much as you can. Again, you are a legal entity, but you're not an enforcement entity. All you can do is look at when someone comes in and offers a service or to build a project, and where is it best fitted based on the restrictions that NICEAG has in place because of its lack of high power lines down in the south of the county, which is really hurting. Lodi can't grow without another high power line, but another high power line can't come in until Lodi grows, kind of catch 22. But again, I want to thank you for being thorough. My issue, which I have submitted in writing, was just the way the dollars fell out, and I don't think that this is as good a deal as we would love it to be, but there has been communication and my written response from at the hearing. But I want to thank you for being thorough with the seeker and trying to identify issues for the town.
Thank you. I think it's, typically, just as an aside, typically when we receive projects, we're looking at it from a financial incentive perspective, not from a project approval. That's typically always done by the town or some other agency which has not done this, so therefore, this is, we have done it before, but we typically don't go through the secret process because that's done by
The local entity
the
that right now
local
is.
entity that, so in some ways, we have the task of, balancing the county and the town and the financial, and it's a little bit of a juggling act, but, thanks for pointing that out. So, moving forward, we've gone through the seeker, parts 2 and 3, went through the review. Any other questions or comments from the board before we vote on approving this? Hearing none, therefore I request a motion to approve the seeker review as written for the Lodi 1 project.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
I'd like to propose an amendment
For the final resolution approval.
to the final resolution.
Yeah, not for the seeker.
Okay, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's prepared.
He's prepared. We're ready. So Kelly?
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Brownell?
Yes.
Mr. Guthrie?
Yes.
Mr. Kine?
Yes.
Mr. Lott?
Yes.
Mr. Bruce Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Tom Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Shipley?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. Next item on the list is the discussion of the resolution for financial assistance for the Lodi 1 solar project.
Yeah, so I'll briefly review for you all. So this is the final step in the approval process. It's already been alluded to, but we did hold a public hearing for this project and for the Lodi 2 project. The public hearing minutes have been included in your packets, including all of the written comments that were received that evening. I will say that was the best attended public hearing we've had since I've been here. We had probably close to 40 people, and I think we had 3 board members there, so that was wonderful. Thank you all for taking the time. This particular project is, would fall within our solar UTEP, so it'd be a 15-year pilot with a base taxes plus $1 per megawatt that escalates 2% every year. They are seeking the pilot plus a sales tax exemption and mortgage recording tax exemption. The value of the sales tax exemption is approximately $503,249 for this project. Mortgage recording tax exemption is approximately $18,396. The estimated property tax exemption from the pilot would be approximately $265,999. But I will point out, because this was a comment or a question that came up at the public hearing, and I did come prepared with the numbers just to point out for everybody. So obviously, for New York State law and for all of the regulation over IDAs, we always have to provide things in terms of what the exemption is, meaning what the full taxes would be upon improvement, and the difference of what they're actually paying. But something that I think is worth taking into account is what the local municipalities receive without a project, which these numbers are combined for Lodi 1 and 2. So over a 15-year period, without these projects, the town, the county, and the school would expect to receive just under $80,000 over that period. As a result of these projects, they would receive an additional $778,000. So that's $778,000 that the town, the county, and the school would not receive if it weren't for this project, or projects, I should say. So just wanted to kind of make everybody aware of that.
You're saying if this was built and taxed without this break?
No, I'm saying that the pilot payments, so one of the metrics for for all projects that we do is the but-for, is we don't incentivize projects that would not otherwise happen. So without a project, municipalities get roughly $80,000 in total.
That's
With the project.
Taxed as ag
Yeah.
land.
Yeah.
So you're getting, so the owners get taxed at the ag exemption rate, 80,000 to the county.
Yeah.
The new project,
With the project, with the pilot payment, so this is not at what the full value would be. The increased revenue from the pilot is $778,000.
Over the 15 years.
Over the 15 years.
But, and that's, I don't know, that's great, the quote, but the reality of it is you're talking about improved versus unimproved. It's what you're gonna spend that you normally would have to pay if you paid taxes on your improvement, as opposed to this pilot program. And usually we look at the difference of that and say a 45B program, and what is the savings there? I mean,
Well,
you're
so
looking at improved land
We can do that with
versus
solar.
improved.
I mean, it's the same thing. So
Yeah.
with solar, there's a New York State exemption that gives them 100% exempt for 15 years. So it's still the same
I still disagree
comparison,
with.
an additional 778.
With what you're getting out of
but-
this amount. These are two very profitable companies. I mean, a company that's very profitable, that's doing a major improvement, and we have next to nothing in jobs that are created other than the work that goes into it. After that, somebody comes and mows it once in a while. You know, it's not the typical thing we look at relative to giving tax breaks. It's a project that, you know, it doesn't do any of that. So that's the only thing I have a problem with, and I always have, and I said it up front, so I still do.
I know, and I understand
Yeah.
where you come from. It's
Yeah.
more just to provide that information, because
Yep,
that's
no,
one
I
of those
appreciate
things
that.
that we don't always talk about with the board or with the public.
Yeah.
And because the question had come up, I wanted to have the numbers prepared
That was good.
then.
I also wanted to emphasize that, as you pointed out here, the municipalities, and particularly the school, will get more money right out of the chute. In other words, they don't have to give up the tax that would normally come from that as agricultural land. They're getting that still, and then we increase it going forward from that. So the school doesn't lose anything. They're always taken care of, and then they get more going. It's just a graduated scale. And to Tom's point, I understand about corporations, and you know they make plenty of money here. But what we're working with, I think, is New York State is trying to incentivize this kind of project because it's what's going to keep us from the global warming. I mean, we've been through it. We have the fires coming here from Canada, the smoke coming here. So I think I'm
It didn't get
encouraged.
caused by global warming. That got caused by somebody setting it, but go ahead.
Well, we had the same drought here that caused the dry conditions up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So anyway, my personal view is, you know, I'm glad that we're encouraging this kind of development.
I just have a question. I mean, I'm definitely sympathetic to the landowners that are around this property and in the town, and the visitors that drive down that portion of the scenic byway, but is there anything I definitely have personal opinions on solar and development, but I'm separating that from the work of what we're being tasked to do with this IDA. And is there anything about this project that is, that is different than other solar projects in terms of how we scaled them, how we based the incentive program
It's
off?
the
of it?
same. It's exactly the formula that's laid out in our uniform tax exemption policy.
And because there's not any different qualifying factor from this one, I find it very hard to see how we could even legally deny this project when we have passed other projects of similar ilk.
Yeah, I agree. Probably the only thing we did different on this one, we did the seeker. We didn't necessarily have to do that,
Right.
but, yeah.
I think it's just one of these where, you know, whether we, I don't wanna say whether we like it or not, but in one way, whether we like it or not, it's the same reason why we're doing the seeker is looking around, there's not another government
Yeah.
entity in this area that has accepted the role of determining what the tax should be for solar. So therefore, we have that.
Yep.
So we were essentially, I want to say, given that opportunity, but we're the ones that are the, I guess, the entity in Seneca County that does it. So we've created our program based on New York State and NYSERDA regulations, very similar to all the surrounding counties. But it's essentially put on the IDA instead of put on by another
I think
government
you said
agency.
it best, is basically we used to, I mean, I'm somewhat people ought to be able to kind of do within reason what they want to do with their property, and not have a ton of zoning. But in reality, if you don't have zoning, things are gonna be happening to you that you have no input, no impact, and there really is no reason for us not to do this. I agree with every score you had on here, and if local towns and areas wanna have some say in that, they're gonna have to look at a different process and come up with zoning or something that addresses things if they don't want it to happen. Otherwise, this thing is gonna happen outside of every town's jurisdiction, but we can't control that. All I can say is, people, you're right. People need to think about that more, even though I'm not a big zoning advocate. It's gonna happen to you if you don't do something.
Just to interject, I think that problem at our end of the county is that people have seen zoning as punitive for so many years.
It can be.
They don't understand that it also can be freeing to have a basic structure that is not overly, it's a basic safety net. And that hasn't happened at our end of the county at this point. That there is a lot of freedom in laying some groundwork and taking responsibility for our own lives. So, and I'll shut.
So in front of us, we have the inducement resolution, the final resolution, inducement resolution, that was a while ago.
Yeah.
So Bruce, any comments
Sure,
on?
sure. That's a comment apply to both, really, and that is the two issues that I think have arisen both at the public hearing and here today have to do with visual impact. And even though the current applicant has committed to 117 trees and 143 plants, I've seen those kinds of commitments before. And for some reason, the plants die after 6 months or the trees don't grow. I'd like to see some language, an amendment of some kind in the resolution that says that in the final agreement with the applicant here, that there will be pretty clear protections that should there be a failure to comply with that or meet that objective, that there's a breach, really, of the agreement. There's a cure period. They get a chance. They are given an opportunity to correct it. And how do you do that? Well, what's sufficient visual barrier? Hard to say. Leave it to Rob to craft that in the final agreement, but that really is the community's principal objection here. And I'd like to see it memorialized some way in this resolution, both Lodi Solar and Lodi 2 Solar. Number one, for some teeth in compelling the next owner, because I think there will be another owner someday. The second is on decommissioning. You know, I'm not worried about, you know, leaching of broken panels. I think the chance of leaching is there, but not severe. I think the decommissioning issue also needs to be pretty airtight and bulletproof, because for all the reasons that everyone said. It's agricultural land, it won't deteriorate, but 30 years from now is a long time, the world could be different. So is that an can those 2 points be added to the resolution, subject to a final agreement with the RIC Energy?
Yeah, periodically the board inserts conditions in the approvals when that's appropriate, and that's, I think, appropriate here since you're the lead agency. So if those are 2 elements that you want to see incorporated into the final agreement, I guess I would suggest something along the lines that, you know, conditioned upon commitments to maintain the landscaping plan and, you know, a commitment to maintain a decommissioning agreement, you know, subject to the approval of the executive director and council and the chairman, or however you want to handle that.
Wouldn't you say the first one's gonna be pretty easy to do, because you could always withhold tax benefits if they did?
Yeah,
The last one's gonna be tougher.
The last one will be tougher, but I think we can figure out some way to, you know, implement that. I mean, I'm assuming there's gonna be some sort of decommissioning agreement with the landowner, and, you know, we can ask to see that and make sure that it's.
So Rob, you know, is there a decommissioning agreement with the contract with the landowner now?
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, typically the
I mean,
decommissioning.
we have the developer and the landowner sitting here.
Yeah, I would assume so. If there's not, then that's something that we can.
As you maybe know, we have an agreement out on the Auburn Road for 400 acres of solar. And that contract states they have to put up a bond with the town of Seneca Falls. I personally don't want to see it go to the landowner, because that makes it his responsibility. It needs to go to the town of Lodi, the bond, because that way the town's gonna be there. The landowner may not be there, he may sell the property to somebody else. I think if we decide to go with Bruce Wants here, it should be a bond held by the town of Lodi, a decommissioning bond.
That's fine. I mean, you would need the town's consent to be involved, right? And I don't know if we have that. I mean, what I would envision is.
It should be written in the contract though up front. If somebody.
I guess what is written.
I mean, the difference is that the town of Seneca Falls has zoning and planning and a process for approving
And that could be.
solar.
That could be.
Yeah, usually when there's an approval process at the town level, part of that process is a decommissioning agreement running in favor of the town, supported by some kind of security, a cash deposit or a bond.
Yeah.
We don't have that here, which makes it problematic, which is, you know, I suppose if the town could be brought into it to be the obligee on the bond, that's a possibility. That sounds kind of an unknown and complicated. What I would envision is the bond would be in place for whoever the landowner is. And then at the end of that, you know, at the end of that period. then there'd be
You're the
security
attorney,
there.
you do what you think's right.
I mean, the reality is that the IDA's benefits are gonna expire before before this project gets decommissioned, right? So we don't really have any, in all likelihood, any ability to enforce that via recapture or anything like that, because it's gonna be done. So practically speaking, unless the town's willing to step in and be the holder of the bond or something, I think you're gonna have to set it up so that there's some kind of decommissioning agreement that the IDA deems to be acceptable, supported by some kind of security, and that can be set up so that it transfers from one owner to the other, which I
Yeah,
assume is in place, or will be in place. but it may
The
not.
only problem that's gonna come back to your problem, because if they go away, it's not decommissioned and it's on your property, somebody that wants to buy it's gonna see that there's this requirement to spend whatever ends up being $80,000 to tear everything out and bring it back to, if there's nobody left and the company's gone and they've sold and they're bankrupt, it's gonna be a liability on your property.
Well, that's why I would assume the property owner has dealt with that by requiring
Yeah,
security from the
yeah,
town.
if they had.
So, my name's Bob Stack, and I'm the property owner. Right now, I don't have an official contract with Rick, right? All we have is a introductory contract, right, for the process that we're going through right now. So, until this gets all approved, right, that's when I'll have a contract, but it's been discussed. And my recollection is that it is a decommissioning bond with the local town. I think to be ironed out, quite frankly, but I know it's there, because in the 55 pages of the preliminary contract, you know, you need to understand, so those are my concerns as well. What happens, right, if I'm holding holding everything at the end? So you guys are on the hook for 15 years, I'm on the hook for 30 plus 5. So I think the short answer is, there will be a decommissioning bond. I'm not sure totally who's gonna hold that. I would prefer the town to hold that, rather than me.
Yeah. Yes, they would.
But that's to be worked out.
I think if the board's agreeable for purposes of the resolution, we can word it such that, the approval will be subject to an appropriate decommissioning arrangement in place that's approved by the chairman and the executive director, and then we can work out the logistics of that.
Yeah.
You know, when the time comes, is how I would suggest to do it.
Okay.
Good framework.
Okay, so maybe we can move along.
Yeah.
We're at
So-
1:30. Sorry, we've got a lot of stuff to get through
So-
still.
Therefore, we have before us a resolution with those 2 additional clauses that'll be written, one for, you know, the preservation of the mitigating visual barrier, and a, you know, guarantee, some sort of a guarantee bond that this property, you know, the equipment will be decommissioned properly and returned back to its natural state at the end.
Shouldn't we know that that's been done before we vote?
Voting on it contingent upon that being done.
If that doesn't happen, then essentially the approval is void, right? So for whatever reason, things go sideways and they come and back to us and their plan isn't sufficient or whatever, presumably Sarah and Steve are gonna come back to the board and say, for the Lodi PV project, we couldn't get a decommissioning arrangement in place that was satisfactory. Okay, and that will have to be dealt with at
Then
that
that just
point in time.
negates the.
Right.
Was it to be satisfactory to this board or the town?
The town has no approval authority, so we have to be satisfactory to, this board, by the approval resolution I'm suggesting, would be essentially delegating that authority to the chairman and the executive director to put their stamp of approval on it, whatever the arrangement is.
So, with that said, I have a motion to approve the resolution with the stated amendments.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Kelly?
Mr. Brusso?
Yes.
Mr. Brownell?
Abstain?
Mr. Guthrie?
Yes.
Mr. Kine?
Yes.
Mr. Lot?
Yes.
Mr. Bruce Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Tom Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Shipley?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Now, unfortunately, this project was broken up into Lodi 1 and Lodi 2. They are both essentially identical.
I think we're gonna turn this one down.
They're both really identical in terms of seeker and final resolutions, but.
I think Dave should read each one of them again for us.
But-
I think I have to.
But
I guess that's the question is, do we need to?
I don't
Ralph?
think that's necessary. I mean, if there's any particular element of the second that someone thinks is different than the first, that could be addressed.
I guess my only question would be, are there any differences between the two? I mean, all the nodes are in the same places?
There's a couple of acreage differences that are like, you know, minuscule, less than an acre.
Yeah.
Really has no impact on any of the answers. And also, that 0.01 acre of wetland, I think, is on one parcel and adjoining the other parcel. But other than that, everything, the answers are still the same.
The general view and all that stuff is the same, where it
Everything's
lays
exactly
out.
the same, yeah.
The other thing I noticed, these are broken into two things, but, staff's consideration is that even if they were together, they would still be the same outcome. The recommendation would be no significant environmental impact, so.
And all the notes are the same and everything, I mean, it's all,
Yeah.
so.
Do you need a motion to say we can do them both exactly the same? Or-
No, you would just basically, we'd acknowledge for the record that, the review of Lodi 1 is essentially the same as the review of Lodi 2, and move on to part 3, which would be, the request for the agreement to accept the recommendations of the staff.
Right, and so part 3, I'll read this sentence, the same as the other part 3, but the recommendation would be to respond that the project will result in no significant adverse impacts on the environment, and therefore an environmental impact statement need not be prepared. Accordingly, this negative declaration is issued. So that is essentially what we'd be looking for, would be a motion to approve the part 2 responses and that part 3 response.
Or if there's no objection, then can I have a motion to approve the Lodi 2 solar seeker?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, Kelly?
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Brownell?
Yes.
Mr. Guthrie?
Yes.
Mr. Kine?
Yes.
Mr. Lot?
Yes.
Mr. Bruce Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Tom Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Shipley?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next item is the Lodi 2 final resolution.
Yep, so, again, it's basically the same numbers as before. Same amount of sales tax exemption, so again, just about $503,000, that's for each project standalone. Mortgage recording tax exemption worth just over $18,000. Again, same pilot schedule and everything. I'm happy to answer questions if people have them, but I don't wanna be redundant.
And none of those sales, or very little of that sales tax that would have had anything to do with this county or being paid here. I'm sure you're buying all that equipment someplace else that isn't made around here.
I mean, I would think so generally. We do, obviously on the local spending side, we have a local labor requirement, and we do require that the company, put funds in escrow to help pay for the monitoring and compliance, and we enlist an agency that oversees that.
Yeah.
Well, for some of our projects, their equipment may not be coming directly from Seneca County, the construction labor is.
Yeah, I
Or
get
from the
that. It's
region.
different if we're buying all your materials locally here and there was a local sales tax we were giving up. I'd feel differently about it than if I was giving up sales
We're giving
tax on
up
equipment you're
almost
buying
nothing.
from Texas. You'll buy some stuff here, but it wouldn't be that meaningful, I wouldn't think.
So, can I have a motion to approve the Lodi 2 final resolution with the same sort of terms and conditions, the same addendums as we've discussed for the Lodi 1 project?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Kelly?
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Brownell?
Abstain again.
Mr. Guthrie?
Yes.
Mr. Kine?
Yes.
Mr. Lot?
Yes.
Mr. Bruce Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Tom Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Shipley?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. Next item, standing item, update from the Seneca County Chamber of Commerce.
In the interest of time, I'm going to defer most of my
These are good.
comments, other than to say I did bring these along. We just launched our new, or redid our new visitor guide for Seneca County. This is also on our website, so I've got some copies up on the table. If you want to take one on your way out, you're more than welcome to do, but I will provide more of an overview next meeting. How about that?
Okay, great, thanks, Jeff, appreciate it. Next item, any update from the Board of Supervisors?
Well, just kind of business as usual. They're still working on the tax sharing part. Haven't got that finalized yet. Hopefully soon. Okay.
And then for those of you that didn't see, there's a new deputy county manager. So hopefully we'll get a chance to bring him in and talk with him more, but Mitch plans to retire by the end of the year, and the deputy county manager will become county manager.
Kyle Lovell.
Also an ex-military, so we'll be able to understand the language a little bit better now. We have a translator.
He's in the Air Force.
We got a new battle.
All right, so.
With that said, yeah, next
I'll-
item, second quarter report.
I'll be quick with the second quarter report, because you all have it in front of you. Really, the big thing that I want to mention is Monday night, we're having our first public input session as part of the Willard Highest and Best Use Study. So that's gonna be this coming Monday, July 10th, in the cafeteria at South Seneca High School. 5 to 8 p.m. open house style, so people can come in. There will be boards with information around the room. The consultants, the staff, the Willard Task Force members will be there to engage with them and try to solicit their input on what they would like to see at Willard. So I hope that most of you can attend that or make an effort to at least stop in. Should be good. We have been getting some comments in writing in advance from folks that can't make it, so all of those will be provided to MRB as well for their consideration. We did pay to put an ad in the Seneca County Shopper, so some of you may have seen that. It was the back page. It ran the past 2 Wednesdays. And then we were also lucky enough to have the press release picked up. It was in the Finger Lakes Times and Monday's paper on the cover. And then Finger Lakes 1 ran it Tuesday, and I think it was also most recently the cover of the Ovid Gazette. So we've had some pretty good coverage for this, but spread the word. Obviously Monday night isn't necessarily ideal for some folks, but hopefully nobody has any big Monday night plans and can stop by. Other than that, everything is on track in terms of our usual projects. You have the metrics here for business retention expansion visits. It's nothing all that exciting, so I will leave the update at that unless people have questions.
That was 5 to 7? And
5 to 8.
5 to 8?
Yep, stop in anytime.
Yeah. The location was?
South Seneca High School.
Okay,
It'll
thank
be
you.
in the cafeteria there.
I have a question. You met with some federal representatives recently down there at Willard with Richie Sutherland from Genesee.
Oh, yes, so the Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Planning Council had 2 representatives from the U.S. Economic Development Administration in town, so they're, bureaucratic federal officials, I guess you could say. They were doing a little tour of the region. We had their time for about 15 minutes and gave them a crash course on Willard. Very quick drive-through tour, and talked with them a bit about the project and where things stand in terms of engaging the public. Hopefully we will be able to reconnect with them and try to determine if there might be some avenues for grant funding or other support as we move forward with redevelopment opportunities. But really it was more of just an informational thing for them at this point. And we have actually invited elected officials to Monday night's input session. I've heard back from a few. So a representative from Claudia Tenney's office will be in attendance. Assemblyman Gallahan will be in attendance. I have yet to get confirmation from the others, but we will see.
I just think it's important that we keep the federal people engaged. I think it's one of our best avenues to generate more income, the way Schumer's pushing stuff around. And their big comment to me after I visited with them was that the infrastructure is very lacking there. And the fact that solar and other additional types of energy sources could be implemented on that site to generate their own power plant. And I think that's where the federal government probably be very beneficial to the project to we can still leverage those connections.
Definitely.
That's just my impression from talking to him.
No, I think that's a good point, and one thing I will say is, I don't think there's any event that we've been to as staff where I haven't taken the opportunity to mention Willard to somebody. All of the regional groups that I'm a part of, all the other boards I sit on, everybody knows. So it's one of those things that we continue to raise awareness on, and, you know, people are paying attention and kind of using us as a model in some ways. All right.
Okay. So, no other business? No. So therefore, I request a motion to enter into executive session under Public Officers Law, Article 7, Section 105, for discussion on the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property where publicity could substantially affect the value thereof, and to discuss the financial, credit, or employment history of a particular corporation or matters leading to the approval of a contract for a particular corporation. We'd like to ask Abe Botter and Bob McKebney to stay for the executive session. Other than that, it's, so like a motion to enter into executive session?
So made.
Second? All in favor? Aye. we have to go live. We're out of executive session. We had a good discussion, but there is no action, further action from the board. With that said, we have a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.